Absolutely a remarkable film. And to me, one of the most remarkable things about it is it was not originally conceived to be a movie about deafness.
That's correct. There was nothing about deaf culture in the film at all as originally conceived. But the director and her partner, who's also the screenwriter, saw Michelle Banks do a one-woman show, and they were so blown away, they said, we got to change our script. They not only involved Michelle, but they also involved a largely deaf crew. And so all of these elements sort of came into and became part of the fabric as they worked together and collaborated on the making of the film itself, which was not as it was originally conceived.
Amazing. Also very interesting in this film is the parallel between the tuberculosis epidemic in the early part of the century and then HIV later. And I understand that it was actually something that afflicted the writer of the original poem. Right?
That's right. Paul Laurence Dunbar, who wrote the poem that's referenced several times throughout the film, actually died as a result of tuberculosis. Stumbling across that poem and deciding to use it, it became the framework for the parallel stories. It adds to these elements when you look at the words, and that talks about death being a boon.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly, right? But if you understand the backstory and the history that led to the poem, which in turn led to it being the film, then it gains a greater significance.
I get very excited when I watch movies to see what people can accomplish with so little. To me, that's exciting. I don't really care if you can have all the money in the world and you can do everything you want. I want to see what you can do when you're up against it.
And often those limitations are the kind of things that will spark creativity. The archival photos, for example. You do certain things to highlight what's in those photographs before you go on to the next scene as a way to establish the story that's being told. And another one of the elements that I think deserves conversation, in the 1990s, this film was made with what are called open captions, in the same way that a subtitled film from Japan would be. That was an intentional, deliberate decision. It was done in part so that deaf audiences could enjoy this film alongside their hearing peers, and was also done, I think, as a way to kind of punctuate the story that was being told. Even subtle things, like in the 1910s, when one of the characters is writing on the chalkboard, the director makes you wait.
Yes.
Until they get to the end of that sentence, kind of adding to that sense of anticipation, which is true to life of how deaf people live.
Yeah. We have to catch up at times, especially in the use of music and the way the deaf people react to it in the film. I don't think it's something that hearing people grasp immediately.
No, and Davis doesn't spoon feed us with it either. You know, we're the tourists here. We're entering the world of Black deaf people.
I can't say enough about how resourceful, I'll say it again, the filmmakers were in this regard.
Yeah, it forced me, and this is somebody who's, versed in this work, right? Who is, always looking at the types of films that are being made about disability, who gets to make them, and what are the stories being told, and how can they be told differently. This is the sandbox that I play in, and I was shocked, I was surprised, I was blown away by how the incorporation of all of these elements made the picture stronger as a whole, and that by leaning into the process and saying, okay, what can we learn here, what can we do, what can't we do, how do we adapt, that's something that deaf and disabled people have to do all the time. And if filmmakers can manage to do that, it makes the work that we're seeing all the better for it.
Exactly. I thank you very much for bringing this experience to me and to the TCM audience. And stick around because we are not done. We still have 2 more movies to go, but we're in more familiar terrain coming up when we visit Black Rock with Spencer Tracy.